One of the reasons that I even started a YouTube channel covering the kind of stuff that I cover is because I had been seeing things on Facebook and so on that were really confusing. You've probably heard me talk about this before on the channel, where I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on in comics at the time, which was around 2015, 2016, and I started seeing things repeated, like in these Facebook groups that I was part of, about characters being replaced. Not only were these characters being replaced in comics, but they were being replaced by women, black people, Hispanic people, gay people, and this was distressing to me. Not because I care about them being black or women or gay or whatever, that wasn't a factor. But based on all these claims I was seeing that the characters were being replaced, I freaked out. I'm like, where are my characters going? Like, what are you doing with my favorite superheroes? What's happening? Welcome to Actual Fandom. Please subscribe if you're not already. If this is the kind of video you're into, hit the like button. So that's a claim that I've seen repeated in the comments and on Twitter and such since I've started the channel repeatedly. And it's only gotten more confusing as time's gone on. Those claims being made back in 2015 were partly what got me back into comics, because I wanted to know what was happening. It's not very often on this channel that I get someone commenting that disagrees with me that's willing to engage in a civil manner or engage in good faith. It happens very rarely. If you check out my debate with a fan of Geeks and Gamers, that was a very rare moment for me. You know, I get a lot of people saying that I'm in an echo chamber and I don't want to hear other opinions or whatever. And that's not true. I brought the guy on and heard him out because he was a nice guy. So, you know, really it has a lot more to do with people's attitudes whenever they come at me than it is what they've got to say. So if you'd like to come on the channel and have a friendly dialogue, email me at actualfandom@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter at @fandom_actual. Now, a couple of weeks ago in my comments, someone approached me in a civil way and asked me, seemingly a simple question. Am I okay with all of the characters that have been and are being replaced? And I asked him to clarify, like, who are you talking about? What characters are being replaced? And he gave me a list of characters. And I mean, this is the first time that I've actually seen someone just give a list of characters that have been replaced. And so I took him seriously. And I said, well, I'm going to look at each one and I'll respond. I did respond in comments, but I'm going to go ahead and respond in this video because, like I said, this is a claim I've seen repeated a lot. And what I think happens is casual fans who don't really pay attention to comics are watching, certain YouTubers and reading certain websites that are telling them these characters are replaced, and they just run with it. And, that's all part of the outrage grift of those types of content creators. So I'll go through a few of the characters on the list that this guy gave me, and we'll see if they've been replaced. First on his list was Iron Man. Has Iron Man been replaced? And I'm assuming that he meant by the character of Ironheart. Well, first of all, what does it mean to be replaced? It means to take something away and put something in its place, right? So in 2016, after Civil War II, which was not a great event, I think most people will admit that, Iron Man, Tony Stark, was put into a coma. Now, if you've read comics long enough, you understand that every once in a while, there'll be a status quo shift with major characters, where like Spider-Man will retire from being Spider-Man for a couple of issues, or Cyclops will leave the X-Men for a little while. A character will die, like Superman. Batman will get his back broken. Spider-Man will find out that, he's actually not the real Peter Parker, that he's actually the clone, and then later on he'll find out, no, actually he is the real Peter. Never mind. Owen Likes Comics just did a great video on Ultimate Spider-Man, and it goes into the clone saga, and yeah, just watch that. But during those few months in comics where Tony Stark was in a coma, the character of Riri Williams emerged as an MIT student who had been a big fan of Iron Man for a long time, and she had created her own armor, like kind of, crappy garage-built version of the Iron Man armor. Still pretty impressive, considering she built it, in a garage with a box of scraps. And she set out on a mission to become her own superhero. Eventually, she took the name Ironheart. But during those couple of months that she became active in Marvel Comics, yeah, Tony Stark was in a coma, but he had programmed an artificial intelligence hologram that, for all intents and purposes, was Tony Stark, and that he was still active. I mean, yeah, his physical body was in a coma, but in every way that matters, Tony Stark was still running around making quips, operating Iron Man armors using this holographic AI. Eventually, of course, Tony Stark came out of his coma, because that's what happens in comic books. Status quo shift, they goose sales, they get people talking about what's going on, and then eventually the status quo more or less returns back to normal. And ever since then, Tony Stark has been Iron Man, and then Riri Williams became Ironheart and went off in her own adventures. You know, every once in a while they cross paths or so, but she's been on the Champions, she's been doing her own thing. And this is nothing new. This is what's called a legacy character. A legacy character or a legacy hero is a type of character, often a superhero, that is the descendant or relative or someone that takes up the mantle or even just the design aesthetic or something vaguely related to the original character in honor of them. This has happened for decades and decades. Batman has Batwoman and Batgirl. Robin is technically a legacy character. Nightwing. Superman has Superboy, Supergirl. Even, Crypto the Superdog is a legacy character. Wonder Woman, Atom, Black Canary, Shazam, The Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Hawkwoman. All of these well-known heroes have legacy characters that came after them and were inspired by them. Moving down the list, he mentioned Ghost Rider, and by that I assume he meant Robbie Reyes, which is the newest incarnation of a Ghost Rider, who is part of the Avengers. He's the one that drives the Dodge Charger. He's an awesome character. He's been awesome in the current Avengers run by Jason Aaron. Did he replace the previous Ghost Rider? No. Not only did he not replace the previous Ghost Rider was a legacy character of the previous Ghost Rider. The first Ghost Rider, in the sense that we know him, was Johnny Blaze. Then in the 90s, Dan Ketch came along. And if you grew up reading comics in the 90s, you're probably more familiar with Dan Ketch. Now, both of these Ghost Riders have had Ghost Rider series starring both of them since Robbie Reyes came on the scene. So, not replaced. They're doing their separate things as legacy characters. He also mentioned the Hulk. For that, I assume he meant when Amadeus Cho temporarily cured Bruce Banner of the Hulk and at the same time, made himself into a new version of the Hulk, the totally awesome Hulk. And yeah, for a short time, he had his own series, and Bruce Banner was killed in Civil War II, which was a really stupid thing too. But since then, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, has had a critically acclaimed series called Immortal Hulk. Amadeus Cho has, kind of become his own semi-version of a Hulk character, but he's doing his own thing. Bruce Banner is still the Hulk, doing Hulk stuff. Then he mentioned Miles Morales, and he even said he's a big fan of Miles Morales' Spider-Man. But has Miles Morales replaced Peter Parker? No. In the Ultimate Universe, where Miles is from, Peter Parker died, which was a big part of the Ultimate Universe to begin with. They wanted to create an alternate Marvel Universe where characters could actually die and then they wouldn't just be resurrected. But in the Ultimate Universe, Miles Morales eventually became a legacy Spider-Man. Then, after Secret Wars 2015, Miles crossed over into the 616 universe, and now both Peter and Miles exist together in the 616. Sometimes they team up, and it's awesome when they do. But for the most part, they're off doing their own stuff. Not replaced. Nick Fury. Again, we've got an Ultimate Universe version of a character. Nick Fury was never white in the Ultimate Universe. From the very first time we see him, he's based on Samuel L. Jackson, which is why eventually Samuel L. Jackson was cast to play him in the MCU. Old white Nick Fury has existed in the 616, more or less this entire time. He's been doing some crazy stuff as the Watcher and so on, but he hasn't been replaced. In fact, the Ultimate Universe, Black Nick Fury he doesn't really exist anymore. He also mentioned a Batgirl TV show, which I think maybe he's mixing up a couple of different things, which speaks to what I was saying about these being casual viewers who they're not really engaging with the media that they're getting upset about. That's why I call them anti-fans. Because, yeah, they more or less talk about the media, they talk shit on the media, but they're not actually reading it or watching it. They're getting their information from YouTubers who are lying to them. If he's talking about the Batwoman TV show, where Batwoman was a lesbian, that's what she is in the comics. The TV show was basing it on the source material. If anything, you should be praising the TV show. Now, if he's talking about the upcoming Batgirl film, yeah, that's an adaptation. That still doesn't replace Barbara Gordon in the comics, who's still a red-haired, white daughter of Jim Gordon. That's not what replaced means. I might be able to understand a little bit of the concern if they were actually replacing these characters, but an adaptation, like a legacy character, is also not a replacement. You can watch the 2022 Batgirl film, or you can just stick to reading the comics if you just need to see a white Batgirl for whatever weird reason. Then he mentioned the gunslinger from the Dark Tower, which, as I told him, that's stretching it, because that's a film from 2017 that nobody liked. It was so dumb that it didn't even get a sequel. Nobody remembers it. It's weird that he remembers it. But yeah, Roland was played by Idris Elba in that film because it's an adaptation. If you are insistent that your gunslinger be white, you can read the Dark Tower novels. You can read the Dark Tower comic series by Marvel, which is awesome, by the way, and your life is not affected whatsoever. Point being, legacy characters and adaptations are not replacements, and it's weird for anybody to fixate on them as if it somehow affects them in a negative way. Nothing's being taken from you. Nothing's being ripped away from you. You know, your white identity is not being challenged. You're just being fed a narrative, an agenda, by YouTubers who want your rage clicks. This whole narrative of characters being replaced, especially when it comes to characters that are black and other people of color, it reminds me of the Great Replacement Theory, which is a white supremacist narrative, and is one believed by the Buffalo shooter recently, who believed that white people are being replaced. Literally a white supremacist narrative. It's hard not to notice the parallels between that real-world narrative, which is really just misinformation and nonsense, and this fandom comic book movie version of it, where it's like they're replacing all these white characters with, you know, black characters, they're replacing straight characters with gay characters, so on and so forth. And one more that he mentioned that I want to address is Iceman. Iceman has not been replaced either. Bobby Drake is the same Bobby Drake Iceman that he's always been. Now, he did realize in canon that he was gay a few years ago, and I've seen some people act like that's just forced, or, you know, oh, he's been straight all this time and now he's gay, but like, dude, that happens in real life all the fucking time. People will live decades before finally going, oh, that's why I've had so much trouble with the opposite sex, which Bobby Drake historically has in X-Men comics. It's because I'm actually gay. Once again, narrative busted. Myth debunked. I really hope that you take this video in good faith. I'm not trying to feed you a line of woke SJW, progressive, liberal, whatever. I'm just giving you the facts. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know who your favorite legacy character or what your favorite adaptation is. And remember, actual fandom means being an ambassador, not a gatekeeper.